Baby Driver is the latest movie from writer and director Edgar Wright, which I think is probably his first foray into a different genre that's not comedy. It's a very straightforward heist movie, and I know he did a movie in 1995 called A Fistful of Fingers, which sounds like a porn parody more than anything, but that movie hasn't gotten any kind of home video release at all. I haven't seen it myself, and I haven't read much about it to know if it was a comedy or not. But anyway, the movie, as I said, is a heist film that follows a driver named Baby. Yeah, B-A-B-Y, Baby. And he is a damn good driver. He's like one of the best drivers for bank robbers ever. His employer is Kevin Spacey, who pretty much raised him and is sort of a father figure. It's not well established. That's the impression I got. And one of the reasons he's a damn good driver and one of the best, if not the best of the business, is because he keeps listening to music all the time. So he uses music to drain the ringing in his ears. And then things start to take a turn when he meets this waitress played by Lily James. They start to form a romance, but when you work in crime, things don't really go the way you want to, so bad things happen from there. I'll just say that. So Edgar Wright is one of the most consistently creative directors out there. One of my personal favorites. He's made Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, At World's End, and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. All of them are really good, but Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz are his two best. These two movies are just phenomenal parody films, with Shaun of the Dead being one of my absolute favorite comedies ever made. His American productions, granted he's only done two, Scott Pilgrim and this, Baby Driver, I don't think are as good as the Cornetto trilogy. While I do like Scott Pilgrim, I can't stand Michael Cera, and while he was good, he plays the same guy in every movie and has no range, really. But it's still a really good movie, and I think Baby Driver is probably a better movie than Scott Pilgrim. It still has its problems that I'll get to a little later, and it's not as good as the Cornetto trilogy, but for being Edgar Wright's first attempt into a straightforward action movie, it's damn impressive. The action scenes are really great, especially the car scenes. All of them look practical, and I think I've read somewhere that they're all practical, which is one of those things where it puts Fast and the Furious to shame. Even though there's a lot of practical work in those movies, they do rely on CG a lot, so it just doesn't look convincing all the time. This movie actually looks real, and because there are actual moving cars in front of the camera, because there's actual car crashes, it makes you invested a little more. But the thing that makes these action scenes shine is the editing. Not just in the film editing, but also in the sound editing. There's a soundtrack that plays throughout this whole movie, which I think this is a trend that started with Guardians of the Galaxy, and then other movies have tried to attempt that as well, like Suicide Squad and Kong Skull Island, both of which I don't think worked out too well, even though I do like Skull Island. But Baby Driver takes this whole thing of putting in a soundtrack and perfects it. The reason for the songs in both Guardians of the Galaxy movies is that it reminds Peter Quill of home, so they're not just there because, hey, these are popular songs from the late 60s, early 70s, they serve a purpose. And same thing in Baby Driver. The reason all these songs are playing is because it plays into the character of Baby. His one happiness in life are these songs, because when you really watch him at this job where he's driving all these criminals, he looks miserable. He looks like he does not want to be there, so he just listens to music constantly as sort of his happy place. But the songs also serve as a flow for these action scenes. All the action scenes and the way they're shot and the way the gun sounds are going off, they're all timed and in sync with whatever song is playing at the moment, and it's damn impressive. It makes you really remember that Edgar Wright is a true master at visual storytelling. Even though this is probably a movie that's going to be overlooked by the Academy, this should get an Oscar nomination for sound editing and film editing, just because it's that good. The plot itself is mediocre. It's not bad, but it's a very generic heist plot that we've seen several times before. One of the movies that definitely comes into mind for me is Ben Affleck's The Town. Both movies have certain scenarios that are similar to each other. The main character starts to fall in love with this girl that he met. Both characters are trying to distance themselves from the life of crime to kind of protect the girl. Both movies have Jon Hamm in it, and both movies put the character in these really life-threatening scenarios where you're hoping they get out alive, and at the same time you are kind of hoping that the romance works. It's not bad, but we've kind of seen it before. And luckily, you do have really good actors to pull these roles off. Baby is played by Ansel Elgort, who's known from the Divergent movies and The Fault in Our Stars. He's probably the weakest actor in the bunch. That's not to say he's bad at all, but the reason I say he is the weakest is because he doesn't have that much dialogue to work with. He doesn't really talk throughout a lot of the movie, and the only way you get a sense of his character is through the songs and his relationship with Lily James. As like I said before, whenever he's doing these jobs, he does not look like he wants to be there at all. The character, not the actor. But whenever he's just listening to music, he's in his happy place and loving it. And Lily James is good as well. Both of these actors are really cute together, and you do buy into their chemistry, but Lily James as a character by herself isn't really that interesting. She doesn't have a whole lot going for her outside of her relationship with Baby. And then you have some very recognizable actors. You have Kevin Spacey, Jon Hamm, and Jamie Foxx. Kevin Spacey plays this kingpin who is pretty much Baby's employer. He can be menacing, but more in that really calm manner. He's not out of his mind. He's very calm, he's very relaxed, but when things don't go right, you can really tell when he's mad. But there are a few points where he does have some sympathy towards Baby because he kind of acts like the father figure. Maybe not in the way Baby wants it, but still a father figure nonetheless. But who is scary in this movie is Jamie Foxx as this criminal named Bats. Every time Jamie Foxx is in this movie, he is scary, he's terrifying, you fear for Baby. Hell, you fear for anyone who's within 20 feet of him. And he does a phenomenal job. You hate this guy so much that you are praying that the worst possible thing happens to him. I'll say no more. Jon Hamm is good as well. He starts off the movie being a little more sympathetic, sort of like those criminals with a heart of gold, and then things take a complete wrong turn to where he's almost as scary as Jamie Foxx. Even though there are a few points with him in this movie where he should have been dead several times, I won't spoil anything outside of that. There are some problems with this movie. As much as I love this movie, I love it for more of a technical aspect, in the way that's a stylistic action movie. The movie's under 2 hours. It clocks in at 113 minutes, but it does move rather slow at points. I feel like there were a few scenes that could have been trimmed, and it would have had a tighter flow. I was never really bored, but you definitely do feel the length. And when a movie feels longer than 2 hours, but it's not 2 hours, that's probably not a good sign. And then I also had a problem with the old man that Baby was taking care of. I do get that he's supposed to be there as an anchor for Baby, not completely being a bad person. The reason he's doing all these jobs is to try to help and support this old man. But he's not in the movie that much. He kind of disappears until you get into the third act. And I honestly feel that Lily James was more of that anchor. Lily James was more of a reason for Baby to not completely go bad and to kind of turn his life around. Because the old man, once he popped back up in the movie, I was like, oh yeah, you're in this movie. So those are my main complaints, but overall, Baby Driver, I'm not completely over the moon with this movie like other critics are, but I will definitely say it is better than Scott Pilgrim in my opinion. Not as good as Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz at all. The soundtrack's great, the action scenes are amazing, the editing is phenomenal, it's Oscar-worthy editing. I do like the character of Baby, and I did like his relationship with Lily James. It's just a really good movie. It left me feeling good in the end, so I'm gonna say it's worth seeing in your lifetime. It's definitely a movie that's style over substance, but because the style is so good, you can almost forgive the movie's shortcomings. I still have a problem with the length and the old man, but this is a movie that I definitely want to see again. It's probably my third favorite Edgar Wright movie, tied with The World's End, maybe a little better than that movie, but still, really good. If you're a fan of Edgar Wright or stylized action movies in general, you have no reason to avoid this movie. And that's my review for Baby Driver. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below and tell me what your thoughts are on the movie, if and when you've seen it. And as always, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.